reminder, we will be recording tonight's presentation, and we will have some time at the end for any general questions about what it's like to be a neurodiverse student at Lick-Wilmerding. This is a webinar, so although we can't see you, you should be able to see us and our slides. Again, my name is Michelle De Leon. I'm the Interim Director of Admissions here at Lick-Wilmerding while Davion is away on paternity leave. I'm excited to support our admission efforts and ensure a seamless process during his absence. It is my 9th year working as an educator. It is my 2nd year working at Lick-Wilmerding. We're going to start with some quick introductions and we'll dive into our Learning Strategies Center and the ways in which we support our neurodiverse learners. You'll get to hear from Winifred Montgomery and Jaski Kohli, and also have opportunities for you to ask questions at the end. It's so nice to see some familiar faces on the call, or familiar names on the call tonight. We're just really happy that you're here, and my hope is that this will be helpful for you and your family as you're trying to figure out if Lick-Wilmerding is a great place and learning environment for your child to thrive. We do feel so humbled that you and your family are looking at Lick as an option for your child in these next 4 years. And so with that said, I will pass the virtual mic over to my colleague, Raki.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Raki Friedman. I am an admissions assistant. I just started this year, but I'm also a parent of 2 alumni and a current sophomore, all 3 who have utilized the LSC. So welcome, and if you have any general questions as you go through the process, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can give me a phone call or send me an email. And with that, I'll pass it on to Jaski and Winifred.
Hi there, I'm Winifred Montgomery. I'm the director of the Learning Strategy Center.
And hi there. Oh, sorry. This is Jaski Kohli. She, her pronouns, and I'm a learning specialist.
She, her pronouns as well. Jaski, would you go back one slide so we can just sort of give people an overview? So we're just going to talk about who we are, who our students are, what our role in this inside the larger community is, our philosophy of working with students, how the program functions, the LSC family, the characteristics of students who are generally successful at Lick-Wilmerding, as well as students, neurodiverse students, characteristics, why it's important to disclose your students' diagnosis during the admissions process, how accommodations work here, documentation guidelines, a little brief survey of where students have recently gone to college, and then we'll have time for some questions and answers at the end. Okay.
Our team slide.
This is us. We've both been in the business a long time, working with neurodiverse learners at very different levels, college as well as high school, and we're pretty dedicated to serving this population.
Yes, and I am currently a sophomore here at Lick, so my 2nd year, super fun, and I've thoroughly enjoyed serving the students and working in the community. All right.
So we actually have a very diverse population of students whom we serve, and they're all, as are all Lick-Wilmerding students, truly academically ambitious, and they all want to do well and succeed. Students who have a formal diagnosis that have what we call a learning plan, which is a document that we create from meetings with the families and from the diagnostic documents. And they live in our school system behind the wall so that teachers can see them in real time. And these documents talk about the specific learning differences that students have. We don't think of them as disabilities because our students are not disabled if they get the support that they need. We also talk about attentional disorders, executive function delays, and other conditions which can impact learning, even if they aren't technically considered learning differences, such as OCD and tic disorder. These functions all have impact on how students learn. And so we think it's really important to have that information available to teachers in real time so that they can just check and see, oh, this is what this student needs in this moment. So our role in the community has really evolved over the years. We accommodations in some senses are the least important part of what we do. We work very closely with our students to help them understand their learning profiles and to help them develop the self-advocacy skills that they're going to need to succeed in high school and beyond. A foundation of that is developing metacognitive awareness, understanding of one's own thinking process and the ability to be analytical and strategic about that thinking process. We also really work to reduce the need for parents' direct involvement in their students' academic process, which is about developing, fostering autonomy and helping students develop confidence and a sense of responsibility, because we are the step before college, at which point kids are going to be on their own. So we really work on developing those skills. We also collaborate quite a bit with the faculty and the administration, both to target support to individual students who may be of concern and to broaden the awareness of neurodiversity in our adult population. For instance, Jaski has recently done a workshop for any students on test anxiety, and I have gone into a couple of classes to talk about how to study specifically for Spanish or for mathematics. And we also feel like that part of our responsibility is to promote neurodiversity as one of the axes of diversity that we value in our community. Having people who think differently makes for a richer and deeper community and understanding of the world, and that's a really big part of how we function. So first of all, our philosophy is to prepare students for the life beyond high school by taking a really holistic and a long-term approach. And rather than having sort of blanket protocols, we work with students individually and we help them identify their goals. It's not so much about getting good grades. I mean, that's always nice. And they're going to go to a great college. There's no question about that. But it's more important that they understand themselves and know how to maximize their strengths in order to succeed in anything they undertake.
So continuing with our philosophy, Winifred and I really, spend those first initial meetings building that foundational trust that is key to any relationship. With that trust, we can have those difficult conversations with students as they pursue their academic goals. And so we really want them, with that trust, to feel seen and respected, to achieve to their highest potential, and from us, get the truth telling and the constructive feedback on their progress. And secondly, with our philosophy is this idea of allowing students to fail if needed. And of course, this is in that supportive environment with Winifred and I walking alongside them, identifying what went wrong with that test that they might, didn't do as they predicted they would. And then to identify what are the study habits we can instill and learn from this lesson so that we can move forward, right? This is the time where the stakes are pretty low in the big scheme of life to learn these lessons from failure and to embrace those mistakes as successful learning opportunities. And here, on this slide, we're really talking about that growth mindset. And that's what the focus is on that process. How do we get from this ninth grader who, has very minimal understanding about how they learn and how they, project in life as a student to this confident 12th grader who can talk about how they learn best, how they, what an ideal classroom looks like, how they, understand information that's being presented to them, how they can maximize their learning. And so really focusing on that growth mindset to identify their trajectory and produce each challenge as a learning opportunity. And it's all about, like Winifred said, the goal is not the grade, but being able to be confident and lead life like that.
So we really believe that if you understand yourself, you have agency over your trajectory. You have the ability to decide how far you want to go and how you want to get there. And so developing that self-understanding is core to the work that we do with our students. And in order to achieve that, we have a 4-year process of scaffolding, increasing self-understanding. When we work with our students, we're always thinking beyond high school. We're thinking to college and beyond. We want to know, what do they need in this moment? How are they prepared in this moment in terms of their own development to hear feedback? What are they going to need for the rest of their time in high school? And then how can we set them up to be successful in college? And then even beyond college, what can we provide for them? What can we instill in them? What can we nurture in them that will help them achieve the goals that they set for themselves? So our formal process begins the year before students come to high school with Neurodiversity Night. And this is an event by our students with us. We have a robust team of interns, and it is designed to celebrate the people in our community who are affiliated with the LSC. Parents are invited, siblings come sometimes, but we also welcome our incoming families. And this happens usually right after the admissions decisions have been finalized and you've decided, yes, we're going to come to Lick. Then we will reach out to all families and say, if your child is neurodiverse, please, your family, come join us at Neurodiversity Night.
And so after that, admissions decisions have been finalized. Our process with you will begin in the summer, and we'll start contacting you in June, and then continue on to early August to meet with our families and our students to formalize that learning plan. And during those meetings, it's about learning about how the student learns best, what are areas of challenges, and then coming together in terms of the appropriate accommodations that the student might need to support them in the classroom and on tests. So that learning plan is something that we work with together with the families on to create those bullet points of the strengths, the challenges, and then the accommodations that the student would use while at Lick. And now we're on to sophomore year. So that learning plan then evolves into an artifact where the student is really interacting with that, the documentation that they brought in. What does it mean, right, to have superior processing skills, but this weakness in working memory? And so here is when they start learning what all of that jargon means on those diagnostic assessments. And then also, to pair them up with those accommodations. So how am I going to use those weaknesses and use those accommodations to really pivot those weaknesses into strengths and things that I can use to overcome my challenges? And then also set academic goals for the year so that the following year we can reflect back on the previous year and say, hey, did we really meet those goals? And then in the junior year, parallel to the narratives that the students will be writing during their college admissions process, that artifact now takes the place of a narrative essay in terms of how they learn. And so this document is filled with examples with metaphors so that students can really begin articulating how it is that they learn, how it is that they process information, and also develop a robust understanding of their learning style so that once they progress through Lick and once they leave Lick, they can really articulate and not really push forth the documentation because they have a solid understanding of what they need to be successful as a learner.
So then in senior year, students are at the first semester of the year extremely busy and they don't have time to spend the hours with us that they did as juniors. So they come in, we review their goals, we update the document, and they distribute that to their teachers. At that point, we're sort of their on-site lawyers. And the work with us to address questions related to the college search issue and to really work towards being stable in their transition to the next stage in their academic careers. And by that point, they're rock solid in their understanding of themselves. So what is the LSC family? So last year we had 13 interns, and this was students between 10th and 12th grades who volunteer with us, who feel really passionate about sharing awareness of neurodiversity in our community, to put on a number of different events throughout the year and to develop our community. So the students put on in the first semester, they put on the Neurodiversity Lunch, which is just for students in our program, particularly focused on welcoming ninth graders and newly diagnosed students. Second semester, they put on the Neurodiversity Fair, which has a number of events and is for our internal school community to expand awareness of neurodiversity among their neurotypical peers and help people understand what different types of learning differences are like. Then, after the admissions process, we put on Neurodiversity Night, which, as I said, is an evening for the families of our students and for incoming families as well, so that everybody can meet each other. We also invite alumni to come back and speak about their experience transitioning from Lick to college. The students have also put together some learning hacks videos, which are short, often funny videos about certain kinds of study strategies that are available on our website. So if you go to the Lick-Wilmerding website and look under academics for the learning strategies centers pages, you'll see the learning hacks videos in there. They're very sweet. Last year, one of our last year's seniors and a junior worked really closely to create this documentary, Stigma to Strength, which is about learning to embrace neurodiversity. And those two students actually went to a number of local independent middle and high schools to show that video and talk about neurodiversity with their peers at other schools. This year, some of our interns have created an affinity group for neurodiverse learners that is designed to just create social connections between our students. So the students who have neurodiversity at Lick-Wilmerding are actually really proud of it and really invested in helping other people understand what's going on. So in general, students who succeed at Lick-Wilmerding have these qualities. They understand that they're taking on a significant academic challenge, and that what goes along with that is, like, if you live a long way away, that commute is going to be part of the challenges you face. If you're an athlete, the commitment to athletics is going to be another challenge. And so students understand that they embrace that. They don't expect things to be easy here. They know they're taking on a challenge. It's also really a predictor of success if they know how to ask for help when they need it, and if they trust and work with adults. Students who accept feedback and critique if it's needed tend to flourish here. Students who are willing to make sacrifices in order to achieve their goals do really, really well, who don't feel like the school is going to be sort of handed to them on a silver platter. And also students who are able to focus on achieving goals for themselves rather than comparing themselves to their peers have a lot less anxiety and are generally very successful at Lick.
Along with those characteristics that Winifred identified, so for neurodiverse students to be successful, if they, can really accept and take pride in their neurodiversity, they're going to thrive. And so if it's not a source of stigma, and of course we do help, students develop that pride and that identity. But if they're coming in with that's going to work to their advantage. And then also recognizing when they need help, right? So Winifred and I are kind of their support team. As soon as they see that sign of, something's not clicking in class, or I don't know how to approach this, how do I attack and manage my, time? Those are things that we can help with. And so recognizing when those, before it's a red flag, when it's an orange flag is when they should contact us. And building on that trust that we spoke about earlier, really committing to work with Winifred eye on that process, on that 4-year process that we described earlier, and really, take advantage of those meetings and truly understanding how they learn best. And then, of course, to understand that it's okay for things to be hard, for them to fail, to get frustrated. That's all part of the learning process and that growth mindset that they're going to grow from. Next, the importance of disclosure during admissions process. We absolutely value neurodiversity, so we want students to succeed, and so it's really helpful when that's disclosed during the admissions process, so that room for failure doesn't happen from the beginning, right? And that said, this isn't the right school for everybody, and we don't want to set students up to feel like a failure, or to be at that bottom of the performance scale. If LWHS doesn't provide the resources as we go through this presentation, it's ideal to find that on early on. And it's better to figure out whether Lick is the right environment for these vulnerable learners early on in the admissions process, and that's why you're here today. So we really want this to be a positive experience for you and for your student. Yeah, so, go ahead.
No, you go.
So we definitely want and encourage you to be, proactive rather than reactive. We want you to disclose and do so right early in the admissions process and start working with us as early as June, so that we can set up those learning plan meetings, look through the documentation, identify the student's strengths and challenges, and so that the student can feel supported right from the get-go, even before the semester begins. And that will also lessen the anxiety. And of course, if students wait, then we're giving them that opportunity to not have that support from the beginning, and that can cause anxiety and cause some frustration that's unneeded. And so that wait and see approach, I wouldn't recommend it, right? Like I was saying, it's better to be proactive. We want them to have that support rather than to wait and see, because there's no disadvantage to disclosing, right? We want to set that student up with their accommodations right from the beginning and start building those conversations with Winifred and I.
So it's important that parents understand the limitations of what we can provide for students. We do not modify our curriculum. And we're going to talk a little bit about what the difference between accommodation and modification in the next slide. But what we do offer is pretty standard at independent high schools in the Bay Area. And there are specifics about the types of accommodations that we offer, again, on our web pages under the academics tab on the school website. But it's pretty standard. We offer 50 or 100% extended time. Students are allowed to use fidget tools. We offer preferential seating, computer use on essays, access to Speechify, which is audio versions of text materials, calculators on math tests. But all of these have to be justified by the functional limitations that are articulated in the student's diagnosis. So we don't just give everybody computer access. There has to be a reason that you need a computer in order to demonstrate your understanding. And so that's something that we would be discussing with the families when we have those summer meetings before the school semester starts, to articulate what are the accommodations that your student is eligible for and that will truly serve them. It's important that you understand that just because a kid gets accommodations in middle school does not mean that they're automatically provided in high school. And that can be a transition challenge for some people, particularly if the documentation is old or doesn't meet the bureaucratic standards to which we are beholden. All high schools have different academic standards than middle schools, and particularly with the college preparatory program, we have to be sure that we are upholding the curriculum. And regardless of suggested accommodations and modifications that may be in the documentation, if it doesn't serve the needs of our curriculum, then it's not something that we approve. So not everything listed in documentation will necessarily be included on a learning plan. at Lick, and we will certainly have discussions with you about why that is or what is needed. But as I'm going to say in a moment, current documentation is a really important element of this. So next slide. Okay, so this is the difference between accommodations and modifications. So if, for instance, if you have reading fluency or comprehension issues, an accommodation and accommodations level the playing field. They give students equal access to the curriculum. So having an audio version of the instead of reading or in addition to reading would be an accommodation. A modification would actually change the curricular standards. So reading a different text or a shorter text is a modification. That is not going to happen here. If you have working memory deficits, then you could get extended time on a classroom test, but you're not going to get a test with fewer questions. If you have written expression challenges, you can use a word processor to compose your ideas, but there's not going to be an alternate assessment or assignment. If you have rote memory deficits and mental math calculations are challenging for you, we can give you a 4-function calculator to reduce the impact of that, but we don't waive the math graduation requirement. So hopefully that makes sense that we have really supportive faculty whom we in-service regularly. They understand neurodiversity. For the most part. I mean, there's always going to be a couple people who are a little old school, but most of our faculty are on board. They've seen the value of supporting neurodiverse students with appropriate accommodations. And so they embed a lot of this actually in their curriculum so that it's normalized for everybody.
And so going back to our documentation guidelines, we pretty much, sorry, was that a? We mimic, the requirements that are needed for standardized tests and college applications so that we can really streamline that process and students aren't having to scramble and get assessments and get additional paperwork as they go through their high school journey. And more information about those document guidelines are available on our website. But in general, having an assessment, a psychoeducational evaluation, or a neuropsych assessment from the past 3 years, which goes in depth in terms of describing the student's cognitive strengths and challenges, is what we're looking for and what will be helpful for the College Board and ACT, which we'll discuss shortly. And here's that slide. And so that learning plan that we create and that documentation that the student brings in is usually the 2 pieces of information that will go to the College Board for the PSAT, the SAT, and those advanced placement tests. And those 3 are regulated by the College Board. So that's a one-shot. As soon as we get approved for either the AP or PSATs, it's a one-time thing. It'll automatically get applied to the SATs. In terms of their accommodations. The ACT is a whole separate organization, which some colleges use the ACT as well for their admissions process. And so that's a second process that we need to initiate. But with the College Board, it's a one-time shot. And like we said, the documentation is usually just that learning plan that we've had at Lick for the past couple of years, and then the neuropsych or the psychoeducational evaluation is what we will provide them.
And this is a list that I put together with our college counseling team of schools to which our students have gone over the past 3 years. And there's some duplicates on here, but there isn't a major school in this country that hasn't had a Lick-Wilmerding alumnus from the LSC attend it. Our students do really, really well academically in college and are recognized as being excellent students there. So the sky's the limit when it comes to possibilities for students after Lick-Wilmerding. And I think that takes us to the end of our formal presentation. So it's an opportunity for people to ask us questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Jaski and Winifred. I just love being able to partner with your team and just the attention to detail and the care you give for our students is so thoughtful. I know very meaningful for our families. And so thank you for just the insight. I'm going to open up the Q&A now. And folks, if you want to go down on the little Zoom bar, you can enter questions. I'm going to stop recording, but before I stop recording, I'll just say, thank you again. And if there are any family specific questions, if you're jumping off the call right now, please don't hesitate to reach out to our office. We're happy to connect with you. We want to make sure that this will be, our school is the right place for your student to thrive in these next 4 years.